Hey boys and girls, it's KnightStalker here. Welcome along today to the guide on, Javelin Militia. So this was voted the next guide that people wanted to see, and I kind of been avoiding it. But also I've been hit up several times about this guide. Why you want a guide on Javelin Militia? I don't know. Here it is. Check it out. So this unit is not relevant at higher levels of play. Not at all. You just don't see it anywhere. Do I find it has any utility? Yeah, you can do okay with it as a really cheap little green unit, but in the early game it can be quite effective, particularly because you don't have a lot of things rolling around with mega high armor and heroes who can wipe your unit with a couple of swipes. So early on, up to level maybe 150, this unit could be very effective, and it is okay for a green tier unit later on, right? So, for example, if I wanted to get bronze, and if you want to get a lot of bronze, you just have to play a lot with green tier units, man, because they're cheap to replenish, and you can still get some kills with them. So I would take this unit as part of that warband when I'm trying to gather bronze, for example, which would be probably where the utility is. Because being Javelin unit, they still do quite some significant damage, even to late game units. Do I like the unit? Yeah, I like the unit, actually. I was very surprised to find I like it, but that's where it is. Would I take it to when I'm trying to win? No, I wouldn't. Early game, yes. Late game, no. So, enough blah, blah, blah from me. Let's go have a look at the tech tree for this delicious little unit. So, here we are with our beautiful, beautiful Javelin Militia. So, the first thing is the doctrines I've got on them. So I've increased their javelin damage by 180, I've increased their ammo by 10% so they get an extra throw. I've increased their health by 250 because I really didn't have anything else to put on them. And of course we've got the piercing damage and the piercing armor penetration. I wouldn't spam all of your really good doctrines into this unless you don't have another javelin unit to do it. You can always take them back off again later with the doctrine water. But these are the ones that I'm using for this basic green tier unit. Veterancy. So the first thing you're probably noticing is that they're not elated, but they are maximized. So they're full level, but they haven't gone to these last two nodes here. Now there's a good reason for that. See, along the bottom line, you've got this wonderful movement speed. You've got the column formation, which you need to have a nice tight charge. You've got the charge ability itself. By the way, this column formation also keeps their javelins really compact when they throw a volley of javelins. It's really quite important for these guys. And also you're going to get an extra 16% charge damage. And that's where that line finishes, because after that, you're not ever going to play these guys in a field battle. In fact, I don't play field battles at all. I hate them. Decrease the food consumption outside the city? Why? Decrease losses in the open world by 20%? Why? Reduces resupply costs by 20%. So these guys are dirt cheap, like a couple of hundred bronze per resupply to resupply. There's absolutely no necessity whatsoever for these. And unless for some strange reason that you're taking Javelin Militia into a field battle where they'll get absolutely slaughtered because of the type of game mode it is, these ones here are no good whatsoever. You see, and up here, 4 more soldiers would be good for the unit, as would reduced range damage, and as would a sprint, which works the same as the sprint doctrine, or say the sprint ability on woodcutters. While these are useful, it takes 4 points here, right? So that would take us all the way back here. We wouldn't have the column, we wouldn't have the charge, and we wouldn't have the extra charge damage. So this hybrid line here is really the only viable way that you can set up your Javelin Militia. And you're going to get some of these stats here. As you can see, for a green tier unit, they have quite a bit of hit points. Really quite a bit of hit points for a green tier unit. You get 28 in a unit, that's 28 javelins, delicious. Or 28 per volley, right? And of course, if you go throw, charge, cancel, throw, well, you're getting nearly 90 javelins out in about 8 seconds. Not terrible, okay? Not a terrible unit. I like them. They're just not, they're not a late game unit. Only 110 leadership, so that's the same as Pike Militia, same. Their speed is good, 5.8 is fast. They don't have a great deal of ammo, so the way this works is that you need that doctrine, this one here, extra 10%, because you want to have some ammo after your first 2 throws, so you're going to use nearly 60, you're going to use 56 javelins for a throw, right? and if you don't have that doctrine, you won't get a third one. Just the same as the Javelin Militia, the Imperial Javelins later. So you put that doctrine on, and then you're going to get 3 volleys. And you don't use these guys for harvesting. So as you can see, their piercing armor penetration is relatively high for such a low tier unit, and each individual damage is nearly 1,000. Just like all other green tier units, their armor is pretty nonsense, but in terms of green tier, that's not terrible, right? Well, let's compare it to, say, these guys. What do these guys got? Not as much, actually. Yeah, not as much. These guys are better armored. So as you can see, in the context of a green tier unit, that's great at the start of the game, but pretty irrelevant later. These are actually a fairly solid unit. So that said, should we move on to how the unit performs? We'll look at its behaviours, and we'll look at its formations. Let's go. Oh, just quickly, before we look at the unit behaviours and formations, I just want to quickly show you the unit tree. So the Javelin Militia are here. Currently it's showing that the melee piercing damage is going to be increased by 20%, so 4 times 5 here. And this one here reads the same. I sincerely suspect that one is piercing damage and one is piercing armour penetration. Other than that, they may actually have 40% damage increase in melee. I don't know. I think it's a typo. The other things that will help your Javelin Militia, armoured combat, increase their minimum health by 3%. We've got their Javelin units ranged piercing damage by 5%, so that's extra damage for your throw. They're going to get extra 3% health, and they're going to get an extra 3% piercing damage as well. Let's go look at those unit behaviours, eh? So now let's go and take these guys in and have a bit of a squiz at their standard behaviours and some of their abilities. So let's first of all, what do we got? We got some domain pikemen. So let's just have a look when we allow these guys just to fight on their own. So our unit's been surprised, our hero's engaged. What happens? Let's have a look here. You'll notice how the majority will stand fairly still and stay fairly compact in the unit, which I quite like. Now this is a shield unit who is of reasonable melee capability, so they should quite happily beat these pikemen. Squishy, 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 splat. Then they'll fall back to their standard unit formation. So what are the 1, 2 and 3 abilities? Let's move this here. Oh, we've got archers. That would be perfect, because we can demonstrate the number 2 ability, which is the charge. Now, what do you notice about that particular charge? These guys will throw javelins as they charge. And even though this unit leads into Imperial Javelins, the Imperial Javelins don't retain that ability, which is a little bit sad, because Imperial Javelins are not terrible in combat. They certainly won't beat any elite melee units, but they're not terrible and they can stun lock. So something like this ability would be great for Imperial Javelins. Let's see what unit we've got out as to which one we're going to try next. You see here, throw javelin, charge, directed throw, right? So, another unit of archers. So I'll demonstrate the number 1 ability. Number 1 ability means throw your javelins at whatever is close. And there we go. I'll just simply pick out the closest enemy unit and hurl a javelin at it. Let's just fast forward this while we go get some more ammunition. Okay, and we're back. The last ability is directed throw, which is much more like the javelin ability that you would expect. Choose a circle and you throw the javelins into that. Now the purpose of this is so that you're not targeting the big shields on the front line. You can shoot over the shields into the squishy units behind, the ball throwers, the other javelins, the archers, the gunners, that sort of thing. And javelins do massive damage to those unshielded, lightly armoured units. Now, something that you can do as well to increase your javelin output, here's a little bit of a trick. First of all, we'll do a throw, then we'll do a charge, then we'll cancel the charge, and we've got an extra javelin throw out of it, you see? And then if I had any javelins left, I'd press 1 again, and they'd throw another set of javelins. So you can actually, quite happily, output a lot of javelins in a very short amount of time with this unit, because you hit 1 or use 3 to throw into the circle. You do a charge with the number 2, which means that they will throw more javelins, and then as soon as they've thrown those javelins, cancel the charge, wait 3 seconds or so, and then throw another set of javelins. So you can throw a full volley in about 8 seconds, 3 full volleys. Their formations are fairly simple. The block formation is definitely the best for this unit because they want to charge, right? And you want them to be nice and compact when they're charging. This little like shield wall type formation here, not very useful. Not very useful at all. And this, I guess if you want to charge like this, wrap around them and have some guys come around and attack in the back, that would be okay, I guess. And of course, the F1 formation is only if you're taking archery fire and can't get there or anything like that, the open formation. As you can see, these units are no slouch in combat against equal tier units. Okay, you're not going to beat berserkers, you are not going to beat axe throwers, you are not going to beat any sort of cav, none at all. You won't even beat condos. Condos will shred them, right? But against equal tier units, they are perfectly capable of holding their own. So again, quite a nice unit to use early on, particularly if you want to learn to use javelins before you start getting into the javelin sergeants and imperial javelins. Anyway, that's probably all I have for this section on the unit behaviour and formations. Hey, how about I show you some battles with these guys, huh? Let's go. Okay, so here we are in a bit of a battle. We're going to open up these shields here for the charge of the Imperial Pikes so that they can just walk through them, assuming they don't get spammed by the short sword. And we're going to bring the Javelin Militia up, and they're going to throw their javelins. Now bear in mind this damage that they're doing, and then redoing, is being done to some heavy shields, so their damage is quite reduced. So given that they're a green tier unit, and given that they were throwing into Imperial Spear Guard, the damage that they did was reasonably effective. Now remember, at their leadership of 110 points, you only have to kill, what, 10? Maybe 12? Purple tier units to have done your points. So as long as you're careful, and you stick with your team, and you just keep spamming your javelins, you should be able to do that just fine. Now we're just going to wait for them to come on up here. Now, in a couple of these clips, I could have fast forwarded through the waiting of the javelins to come back, but I think it's important, particularly if you're a new player, well especially if you're a new player, to actually understand how much downtime javelins can have. You know, this supply point is relatively close, and we would have been missing 40 seconds of playtime there while they went back and rearmed. So anyway, the point is captured, and as is customary on this map, you push up to the right hand supply point. So let's go. Now with the javelins, when we get to spots like this, I like to put them in like a nice area here where they can all see the potential target location. Nothing comes out to fight us, but here we have some misplayed grandpas. They're not stabbing me, so we'll move the javelins in, and we'll start massacring them. And now we've reached the 12 kills that make the javelins worth their points. But we're not done yet. Throw some javelins into the monks, another couple of kills. And we'll keep pushing up towards the supply point here. A quick throw as we go past the spear sergeants, because the javelins have very good block break. We managed to pick one up. And we'll dive in here. We've got enough, see that little slither of ammunition? That's just enough to throw and kill 7, what were they? Halberdier sergeants? So far, this has been a very good game for the Javelin Militia. And use your javelins judiciously, but not too judiciously. Like, they're there to be used, right? So when you see an opportunity, have a throw. Anyway, I'm just going to fast forward through this bit until we get to bringing out the Javelin Militia again. You'll note that we haven't lost a single Javelin Militia at this point. I always love the fast forwarding sound, and I love Prefecture Arrow Rain too, that's always fun. Anyway, we battle our way down to the supply point, We've got ourselves some Javelin Militia again. And again, we're pushing a point, and these are not bad for this, especially if there are no shielded units. If there are no shielded units, you're going to have a real good time with the Javelin Militia. Spend a little bit of time capturing the point, and then, as is customary, we shall push on to the left supply. Now, they have a reasonable range, these javelins. You can sort of move them here, and I see these cavalry, and I think, well, I'll take some hit points off them. Unlikely to kill any. Okay. Monastic cav, I think they were, which are very heavily armoured. Can't quite tell. They might be armigers. But as you can see, we did a crap load of damage to the hero and to the cavalry, and then the charge follow up as well for the extra damage, along with the rest of our team. So even though we didn't get a lot of kills in that engagement, we did a lot of damage. Now, here I want to demonstrate a couple of things to you. We see the old grandpas coming in charge here for some peasant kills, and that's a mistake. You should never risk your unit to get peasants. We're going to give them a volley, but then we're going to square up, and we're going to sort of half charge behind them. Watch this. The reason for this is they're being engaged in the front. Now we're behind them, we can throw another volley of javelins and absolutely devastate the unit. Not bad, eh? Not bad. Now here, I could fast forward this again, but you see how far the supply point away is? It's not that far. We'll send them back to the final point here, because the one on the right's about to be captured. Now, when talking about javelins, it's really important to talk about the time that it takes to go back and get more javelins. There's a reason that javelin sergeants are more popular than imperial javelins. The imperial javelins hit hard, they've got a little shield wall, they can stun lock non-elite melee troops with if you use a top veterancy line, and they're only going to get 2 or 3 throws for the imperial javelins. And this downtime that you can see that we're having here is the reason. There's a lot going on in this battle in the time that your javelins aren't here, and you really, really need to take that into consideration when you're paying javelins. If you're a longsword like I am, you could also take the knightly vows, which will give you a few seconds worth of extra speed boost, but all in all, you're not really going to be reloading and back really quickly unless you're sitting on a supply point. There are some missions where you can sit on a supply point and just chuck javelins endlessly. So here we are, we finally got them back. Throw a volley of javelins into here, do a whole bunch of damage, get a couple of more kills. We're getting surrounded. So here I see the Imperial Pike Guard, and if the Imperial Pike Guard want to waste their advance on Pike Militia instead of coming into the side of our team's flank there, that's okay with me. We'll take one for the team. Anyway, there's a couple of good ways there to use Pike Militia. Not Pike Militia, Javelin Militia. Now here I want to show you how javelins stop cavalry charges. Watch this. A good 3/4 of the unit there was stopped by the javelins. Unfortunately, these are armiger lancers, and when the cavalry charge stops, they hit 2 and they get another free cavalry charge. So that tends to kill the militia. I tried lots. I tried to get more videos of them stopping the cavalry, but this is the best I could do. It's actually not an easy thing to set up. So keep that in mind. If the javelins were behind some of our team, they've got some pikes, we were in a bit of a blob with 3 or 4 players and their units, stopping that cavalry charge with the Javelin Militia at 110 points would have been extremely useful for the team. As it was, we killed a couple, but it wasn't to be. If it had been any other cavalry other than armigers or hussars also restart their charge, those cavalry would probably not have killed them, and we would have got another throw off before we finally went down. So, boys and girls, that is all about the Javelin Militia. It's hard to take this seriously. Why did you ask for a guide on this? I mean, really. But it's actually been a lot of fun at the same time. I really enjoy this unit. It's quite a little fun unit and an inexpensive unit. And if you've got 110 leadership to spare and to fit in your warband, hey man, I recommend taking these guys. They're not absolutely terrible, not by any means. They're just not effective in the late game. Early game, not a problem. So, I hope you learned something new, or you just enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for coming to my channel.